in an exchange we had prior to this, you spoke about two types of cyber attack, the financial and the strategic. One of the challenges that we face in this space is, of course, the infrastructure is not always, or the regulatory environment is government-led, but the actors are private sector. So can you say a word about, maybe drilling in a little bit into the strategic, because we've covered a little bit of the financial. Where does the responsibility lie between the state and the corporate? In terms of protecting digital assets, and how is the nature of the threat changing?
Yeah, I think that the nature of the threat has changed, especially since the Ukraine war. It has become, and even you could say when Russia took over Crimea. And so there's been a lot of activity in the area of trying to destabilize sovereign nations. Especially across Europe. I'm not sure whether it's also here in the region, but definitely across Europe, where elections have been tampered through social media and other activities. You've had disinformation and cognitive warfare happening, and you've had also critical infrastructure being attacked. Water was one in the UK that they got close to infiltrating with poison. And then you have right at the bottom of that, the economic actors, companies, but who have an impact on security and helping secure defense assets and others. So you have that mix of different elements that are being attacked. And this is what we call a grey war, which is not obvious. You don't know who's doing it, or whoever's wants to do it is not very clear about it. And so what we do in our fund is we invest into those types of companies along with space and security assets. But the aspect that I found, coming back to your question about how government and companies work together, I was at a Space Isaac, which is where basically wargaming happens in between industry on one side and government on the other side, and they try to simulate an attack on some critical infrastructure. In this case, it was energy. What happens? It was clear it's a cyber attack on the critical energy. It's cutting off energy. So basically, the nation as a whole is getting attacked from energy perspective. And then how do you counteract that? And the thing that we saw was that industry and companies are at a nascent level of how to address those as a form, yeah.
And just very quickly, where have you seen a successful interaction between the government and the corporate sector? Have you seen a successful interaction? Because you talked about language and translation, but this is another area of translation that needs to take place.
Yeah, so there is a cybersecurity center, which is part of GCHQ in the UK, which is a very secretive organization, which, for example, from M&S, when M&S got attacked, they called them, and they were the first port of call. So that's how government and industry work in that way. And that attack cost 300 million pounds. And then recently with JLR, you had another 1.3 billion in cost to the company. And again, the cybersecurity center was active from the get-go, and they try to interact, but they can't prevent human failure.
Yeah, and I remember I was in the US government post 9/11, and one of the real challenges we had is the infrastructure is private sector, yes, but it's the government who's got overall responsibility, and so that translation is also really important.